Well, hello and a warm welcome back to another week on my allotment. I don't know what today's going to bring. I don't know whether it's going to be another hot day. We've had weeks of hot weather now. It's either one thing or the other, but it's very useful on the plot. Bit of watering to do today. But as the country descends into chaos, my allotment plot is a place of tranquility and calm, which I have appreciated over the last few years for a number of very obvious reasons. I'd like to start on the subject of tomatoes. Ali, My Rusty Garden, go and check out her YouTube channel, has sent me some tomato seeds all the way from Canada. What a lovely lady she is. I've never heard of any of them, and one of them is a habanada pepper, and then garlics, and neither of those are obviously tomatoes, but garlics, never heard of them before. So I'm really excited to grow those next season. So a big public thank you to Ali. And then in a moment I want to have a look at the sort of downside of tomatoes, which you can probably guess. Lots to do today, lots of hoeing, weeding, training the squashes back onto the plot and trying to limit the way they're spreading across the paths. But yeah, lots to do. You're very welcome. So let's start by having a look at them damn tomatoes. Well, I don't know if you can read that, but I'm growing two main types of blight resistant tomato on my plot. One is Crimson Crush, and they're looking very healthy, large, and hopefully I'm going to get a good crop. And then the other one is Crimson Crush and Crimson Blush. But I've also planted some excess tomatoes I had, which are Tigerella, and they are not blight resistant. Now this bed appears at the moment to be okay. Walking around this morning, doing my initial tour of the plot when I arrived here in the dark, I've noticed this. This is the Tigerella, and that is definitely blight. No doubt about that. You can see that there, it's come on very quick and it's devastating. Thankfully, I think it's only the Tigerella. I don't think the Crimson Crush and the Crimson Blush have succumbed yet. So my first job today is to take these plants out. Now you can put them on the compost heap. Tomato blight cannot survive on dead material, so it can go in the compost heap, but my compost heap is completely full at the moment, so it would mean they would sit on the top, and that would be would enable the spores to spread. So I'm going to bag these up and take them off site today. So it's a real shame, but I should know better. You know, you just, in the British climate, it's just virtually impossible to grow tomatoes outdoors that are not blight resistant. So that's my first job today. It's a shame, but I've got to bite the bullet and sort it. Let's have a look around at some other crops. Well, these are the butternuts. And without the bottle watering system, I simply wouldn't be able to get the water in the right place. And even then, the bottles are only just showing. But if we delve down inside the foliage, the butternuts are forming, and they're a good size, if that one is representative. Hopefully a good butternut harvest this year. In under this enviromesh, I have the red and green clubroot resistant varieties of cabbage, which are Lodero, the red cabbage, and Killerton, the green. And here is a Killerton, and that's a good solid head. I'm going to harvest that today. We like our own homemade coleslaw. Cheryl particularly likes that as opposed to the shop bought stuff. So that'll be the first cabbage harvested this year. So that's good news. That's the first leek I've spotted that has gone to seed, bolted. And they're almost unusable when they bolt. So you might be able to see I've given them a good water today. I mean, bolting is a reaction to a stress. It knows it's going to die, so it goes to seed to produce more of its kind. So they're under some sort of stress, and the only stress I can imagine is a lack of water. So they've had a good drink this morning. Talking of being under stress, the chard, some of it has bolted. You can see that plant there has gone to seed. But I have been watering these quite regularly. Oh, so's that one. But there are, you know, the majority so far have not. So I'm going to keep the water going and hopefully they'll be okay. Well, as with the butternuts, so with the mashed potato squash, the foliage looks splendid. Really, really, attractive. Very full. And it's lovely that they don't try and push out their bush types so they don't spread. And again, if we look inside, there's a baby one and a daddy one. So again, hopefully, fingers crossed, with no disasters, this is looking like a good harvest as well. You never know what you're going to get really with seeds. I showed you a few weeks ago that one of those winter squash plants turns out to be a courgette. These are meant to be dwarf cosmos, and dwarf is 2 feet high. Well, they're 4 or 5 feet high already and they haven't finished growing. There's no way that's a dwarf cosmos. Anyway, they're attractive nevertheless, no complaints. Has that just snapped, or is that blight on my tumbling tom? I don't know. Well, I know it's not a crop, but I couldn't stop and walk past these. The zinnias, I grow them every year now. I love them. They're on a par with dahlias. And these are stunning. I do love an orange flower. And these are now known as Carl's blackberries because he pruned them a few months ago. And they're just overladen. I pick them every time I come up. A full punnet. Last time I came up, I picked 2. Fantastic. The best crop of blackberries we've ever had. And they're so big and tasty. Could not wish for better. And we got some cooking apples from my mum yesterday, so we can have apple and blackberry crumble. I wouldn't be surprised if I've got that for my tea when I get home. Absolutely loving the blackberries. Well, over here is a complete mess, but if you can see that trunk or stalk there, that is the self-fertile kiwi that's never produced fruit, but this year it's gone absolutely mad. If I show you, I haven't really kept my eye on the ball. It's now curling its way round the chimney of the stove. And it's going across the roof. That's got to be brought down. But yeah, still no fruit to eat. But I brought you here to show you the spinach. There's 2 types of spinach here. This one here is New Zealand spinach, which is definitely my favourite. It doesn't bolt. It grows like, as you can see, it grows like crazy all summer long, no matter how hot it gets. And this one is perpetual spinach. Not quite as good, and it bolts almost immediately. So for me, it's New Zealand spinach all the way. It's bomb-proof. It's not the best looking celery in the world, but it's probably the best I've ever grown. And this is just sat in one of those trays, so I keep it filled with water. And I have got some at home in the greenhouse, which is far better. But that's not bad. I'll get a crop off this. Well, there's a common theme running here. As with the butternut and the winter squash mashed potato, the pumpkin plants are taking off. This one here is called Zombie. I've not grown it before. But there's a good example. There's 3 of them. I need to... In fact, there's another one just there. There's 4 in this little cluster. So I just need to pull them apart a bit. But they look very interesting. Once they're 3 or 4 times bigger than that and orange, they'll be quite a thing. My fig is growing in a box made of patio slabs. And the idea of the box is it restricts the roots puts the plant under stress and forces it to concentrate on growing figs rather than foliage. We'll see. But this is a cutting given to me by one of my fellow plotters, and you know, they're looking good. In fact, if I take you down there, that one's even bigger. I might get a few figs off this year. Very happy with the progress so far. Let's have a look at my wheelbarrow. Well, there's when you don't think a plan through properly. Is it in or out of the wheelbarrow? I'm not sure. I bet there's a ridge in it underneath. Yeah, probably not the best idea I've ever had. There's a few rotting off, which is perfectly normal. There's one sitting in the middle there. This one I moved last week, and you can see it's got a discoloration on it. But anyway, it's holding this plastic down, so it's doing its job. I had nowhere else to put the plants, so needs must. Well, as predicted, the sweet peas have had their day. The beauty of the sweet peas is now being taken over by the beauty of the runner bean. Another job I think I can start thinking about is saving my pea alderman seeds. They're really dry and crispy now. I think I can get a paper bag and start to collect my own seed. Right, that's all the blighted plants taken out, and it goes to show, it's testament to the blight resistant varieties, because they're sat a foot from the ones with blight. In fact, I've missed one, this centre one, so I've got one more to take out, but they're sat right next to it, and I've looked very thoroughly, and there is no sign of blight on the blight resistant ones. So I don't want to count my chickens. I'm not saying I've got away with it, but we'll see. So far so good with the blight resistant tomatoes. Right, the other thing, once I've taken this other plant out that I've missed, I'm going to go and stick these under the flame of the Kelly kettle just to disinfect them, because I do use these to cut the leaf stems off of the decent plants, so I need to disinfect them with heat. Well, it's that time again, eyes down looking. Public applause is banned in Belarus. There's a carpet shop in Dublin called Lino Richie. Cardiff has a tiling supplies outlet called Bonnie Tyler. Bristol has a mobile kebab truck called Jason Donovan. Portsmouth has a locksmith called Sherlock Holmes. Brilliant. The explorer Thor Heyerdahl once spent hours waiting for a taxi at the BBC, only to find out that the driver had been there all along, waiting for 4 Airedales. Oh, it's all in the pronunciation. The first woman to run 400-metre hurdles in under 53 seconds was Marina Stepanova. In 2012, the Olympic hurdler Vanya Stombolova failed to reach the semi-finals after she fell at the first hurdle. In a 90-minute football match, that's the British proper football version, not the American version. In a 90-minute football match, the average player is in possession of the ball for 53 seconds. Wow. After pregnancy, women have permanently larger feet. I think that's just an excuse to buy more shoes. Yeah, very interesting. I know a lot of people with their allotments and kitchen gardens on YouTube. As with many crops, the tomatoes are well behind this year. But I managed to plant mine out in May. It was a bit of a risk, but I got away with it. So mine are quite a way on now. They're pretty much as they should be. And by the time you get to August, the tomato plants are developing the fruit. They don't need their leaves as much. So that's what I've cut off today, and I've done that several times so far. And apart from the bottom patch where I've taken those blighted plants out, these are the Crimson Crush, blight resistant. And so this plant here is fairly typical. I've removed all the lower leaves, which has exposed the fruit. I mean, some are still developing, but that will allow the light in, the sun, the heat, and hopefully make blight on the blight resistant tomatoes a lot less likely, because they're resistant, not proof. So I should, in the next week or two, I should start to harvest these. And of course, we've had nothing but dry weather recently, and I have been very careful through the summer when I've watered these to only put the water on the soil, not to splash it all over the plants, in an effort to keep blight away. Anyway, that's what I've done. Hopefully we'll start to harvest soon. Well, there's the crop of Charlotte and Kestrel, second early potatoes. And to get that crop I had to empty 6 of the tubs, and I've got 7 left to empty. But I'm very happy with that. A lot of them are jacket, even though they're second earlies, they're jacket potato size, and I know that both of those make very good jacket potatoes. So I'm extremely happy with that crop. It's the jacket potatoes I've never really managed, but this year, for whatever reason, they've grown good. Well, I've cut the strawberries right the way back, give them a chance to put on some new growth before the autumn. And for some reason I've got an awful lot of verbena growing in there, self-seeded, which is great. I'll pot them up, but for now it's all weeded and tidied up. Right, next job, I'm going to just prune out about 1/4 of the oldest wood on the 2 blackcurrants. blackcurrant's fruit on wood that's 1 or 2 years old. So it's important to cut out each season about 1/4 of the bush, so that it lets light and air in, keeps the plant healthy, and it cutting back the old stems generates the new growth, which in a year or two will carry your harvest. Anyway, didn't take 2 minutes, job done. Well, I'm taking that down the farm shop. We've got more than enough blackberries. Courgettes, I always grow far too many, and the French beans are really looking good. Got a fantastic crop, so I've got more than enough to take home. So off down the shop I go. Well, combined with what I took to the shop, that's a lovely harvest. A few flowers for the long-haired Sergeant Major, and jacket potatoes for tea. It doesn't get any better. Well, a very good day. It's not too hot out there. There's a nice cool breeze blowing, so it's been more pleasant than certainly work has for the last couple of weeks. I've managed to get a few jobs done. There are a few other jobs I didn't get done. I wanted to summer prune the apple trees just to reduce their height a bit. I'll do it next time. I wanted to make my last harvest of comfrey to make comfrey feed, but you know, you can't achieve everything. I mean, I could stay longer and do it, but it would get unpleasant and it would become a chore, and I don't want that. I've been here since 4:45, and it's 2 o'clock. So yeah, a good day. Thank you if you've watched all the way through. Thanks if you've subscribed. Please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and all being well, whatever happens this week, I will see you next weekend. Until then, enjoy your gardens or your allotments, and good luck with your harvests. I shall see you next weekend. Until then, look after yourselves, take care, bye for now.